Well, look, it wouldn't be a Knights Guild Twitter space if we didn't have a technical problem with it.
True story. That's the name of the game.
Hey, Steve, how are you? Happy Christmas, happy holidays.
Back to you. I'm doing quite well.
And thank you so much for joining us today. It's we were hoping to. Well, I'm surprised that it's so quick because we only started talking about it quite recently. So yeah, we're really grateful to have you here today. Um, we'll give it a few more minutes because oh no, it has gone half past. Let me see. And Juju can't make it tonight, unfortunately. And Juju is a much better co-host than I, but she's got an appointment directly at the same time as this space. So I think Josh is going to lead the way today, sir.
That is the plan. Yeah, Juju's been super busy lately. She's out there starting her own business in addition to the things that she's doing with the Knights Guild. And a lot of that will start to be revealed here in the next week, right? Like as soon as 2023 kicks off, we got a load of announcements that we're coming out with.
Yeah, so I've got the draft on my desktop. There's 5 announcements. It sounds that, and the reason we're doing it as one announcement with 5 sub announcements is because they are actually quite different announcements, and yeah, it's really exciting. You've leaked a few times that the white paper is coming.
Yeah, I can't help
um,
it.
and nor can I. I mean, it's pretty much occupied a lot of people's time over the last couple of months. So that's going to be a bit of a leak of one of the announcements. But yeah, there's a really big announcement. I mean, if the white paper isn't big enough, we've got a really big announcement, which is talking about our tech projects. That's all I'm going to say because I am so leaky, just because I get so excited. But yeah, this announcement is going to really put a lot of credibility and confidence in the tech we've got to develop to enable a guild. So yeah, it's really really exciting. But that will be coming probably definitely in the next week. But I want to get it out. We've just got to wait for one more thing to land, and then we will be announcing. We'll be sending this announcement out. So it's exciting times. And Josh, when you look back, I mean, we'll get on to the tavern in a minute. But I was reflecting. There's a lot of Twitter Spaces going on at the moment about reflecting about 2022 and not just in the crypto space. You know, it's been a pretty horrible year, maybe a couple of years, but there's a lot of people doing a lot of reflection at the moment, and I started to look back at what's happened in the Knights. I mean, we only formally stood the Knights up in January, February this year, you know, and we've sold out 2 NFTs in less than an hour. You know, that's pretty impressive. And our third NFT is on the way to being sold out. That's been a bit of a slow burn because the utility isn't directly linked to Cornucopias assets. It's linked to Kopi. But you know, and not just for the Knights Guild, the Mafia, they've sold out 2 NFTs as well. It's been such a phenomenal year, not just for Cornucopias, but for establishing the guilds. And I think that's why it's so important today, the end of the year, that we've got Steve here. And actually, I'm not hosting, am I? Josh, you take over.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I was about to say that's a fantastic segue into how we normally kick off these Knights Tavern Twitter Spaces. We've been doing this regularly. I know there's a lot of people out there that are not normally with us on these Twitter Spaces, but we do these regularly. Try to aim for same time Saturday, and the way that we usually kick these things off is we start with what we like to call Behind the Knight's Armor. That's where we share a fun fact about us. We've had a lot of guests on the channel that are guild leaders within the Knights Guild, so we like to, use that as a chance to get to know some of the people that are leading the Knights Guild. I'm excited about today's Twitter space because we get somebody that is not just central to Cornucopias, but also leading and heading the Cornucopias Guild Alliance, which is like shaping up to be the center of guild collaboration within Cornucopias. And it's last week we talked a lot about how we talked a lot about the uniqueness that Cornucopias brings to Cardano metaverses, in that we're the only ones that have guilds established. And I think that's really interesting and a powerful demonstration of what us as the Cornucopias community looks like, compared to not just Cardano metaverses, honestly, but just metaverses out there in general. So, behind the knight's armor, I'll go ahead and start and kick us off. We share random facts about ourselves. We've had lots of stuff about hobbies, about experience with games in the past. We've had a lot of people on here that surprisingly that are have quite a history of martial arts, which is, I think, is really interesting. So for today's fun fact about myself, I will share. A lot of you guys know me already. I'm a content creator over at Late Game Crypto. That's my personal YouTube channel that I run. I've actually been creating YouTube content for, I want to say, 8 years now. Out of the 1.5 years that I've been creating crypto content, Cardano-based content over at Late Game Crypto, I've actually been a content creator for quite a bit of time, and it's become such a heavy passion of mine. And I think the experience that I have had creating Cardano-based content, honestly, has been is such a unique experience compared to anything else that I have ever created. The overwhelming positivity that I have received from the communities, very heavily coming from the Cornucopias community, but the greater Cardano community in general, is so incredibly supportive about what I do over at Late Game Crypto. It's been received with insane positivity, and just people come there and appreciate the content that is produced there. So that's my fun fact. I've been a content creator for quite a long time, and Cardano, Cornucopias, it's different. Um, yeah, Moody, you got a fun fact or something you'd like to share about yourself for us?
Yeah, yeah, and your introduction and hosting was clearly better than mine, and that's come from doing 8 years of content creation. I just ramble, so no, that's really interesting, Josh. Thanks for that. So I'm going to give a fun fact about my New Year's Eve. So this is the first New Year I've lived alone for 11 years. Me and my partner of 11 years broke up pretty much this time last year. And this New Year, like most other New Years in the last 6 years, I have to sit indoors with my dog with a lot of diazepam next to me because the fireworks absolutely send my dog into epileptic fits. He's got epilepsy. So it just feels a bit different this year because I'm alone. But obviously, previous years it was me and my ex who were sat nursing my little dog. But yeah, he's sat here next to me. He's not gonna speak today, Josh. So we won't bring him up to the stage. But yeah, that's my fun fact. That yeah, I'm sat at home alone with my dog with a nice single malt whiskey and some diazepam. Not for me,
Yeah.
for my dog. But yeah, that's it.
That I love hearing about your dog. I feel like your dog, in every bit of content that we have produced, every meeting that we have had together, like the dog always comes up, and I feel like it's become a part of your identity. Like you're not just Moody to us. You're Moody and Hound.
Yeah, I don't have kids, so I've never got around to having children. And I guess when you've got a dog, when you haven't got kids, especially being a single dad dog, you do kind of look at your dog and treat your dog like a child. But yeah, he's. I put some really good photos in the Christmas tree competition of him dressed up as a pumpkin. Actually, bless him. So I don't think he's as fond as me as I am of him.
I love it. That's awesome. Uh, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. We've got the head of the Cornucopias Guild Alliance as a guest on today's episode of the Knights Tavern. Do you have a fun fact that you might like to share with us?
Okay, so first off, let me slightly correct what you're calling me. The Guilds Alliance is something that the guilds formed, and I'm just acting as kind of a liaison. I'm certainly not the leader of the Guilds Alliance, um, and I just wouldn't claim that role at all. I'm happy to answer questions, and I'm happy to be here and know that uh, we're putting a little focus on the alliance to try and attract other guilds into this alliance. And but I would not say that I'm the leader of it in any
I very much appreciate
shape.
that. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm really excited about this space for is learning more about what the Guild Alliance is all about. Even me myself, I've pretty quickly moved up the ranks in the Knights Guild, and the Cornucopias Guild Alliance has been a major interest of mine, and I think that it's a fascinating uniqueness that Cornucopias is going to be bringing to the table with this collaborative effort. So yeah, I'm excited to get talking about that. Thank you for the clarification. How about a fun fact about yourself?
Fun fact: for a small amount of time, I was actually an IOHK IOG employee. I was hired by Tim Harrison and Dorr from while I was with the Catalyst community, and I was hired into IOG as a community manager. And there were some health and family issues that came up and kind of made me curtail my activities there. But it was really awesome to be considered. I was the first community member to be hired into IOG in any sort of role like that. So that was spectacular, short lived, but spectacular.
That's really cool. I mean, as somebody that's watching Cardano all the time, and we at
Mm-hmm.
the Knights Guild we're big fans of Cardano's Catalyst program and trying to get as many people involved there as possible. So even though it was short lived, thank you for your service there. I think we can all appreciate that.
All righty. So we're gonna. Have you got some questions here? Can we? You want to discuss the Guilds
Yeah,
Alliance?
absolutely. Let's go ahead and dive into that. I've got some written out here, but before we jump into that, let's talk first about you generally. You as a person, what do you do for Cornucopias? What's your job title? And also, I know that that's a little bit the job title is probably limited to like what kind of things you actually do in the community. So tell us a little bit about what you do with the Cornucopias community.
Well, I kind of head up and I'm considered a community manager. I would say primarily within the Discord. We pretty much hang right around that 40,000 member mark. I don't know how many we have active on a daily basis, but it is a very, very active Discord. And so I'm considered a community manager. I have access to everything that you'd expect a team member to have access to, and I act as that lead for the moderation team. So we attempt to assist the community in maintaining that lovely family friendly environment that we all get commented about, left and right, center. Every time, we're out talking about this community, people come and they're like, hey, this is a great, great community to be involved in. So that's what I'm looking to. Um, I wouldn't say limit. That's what I would like to aspire to in my role is maintaining that family environment that people just enjoy coming and being part of.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think we have all noticed that. Anybody that has spent any time in the Cornucopias Discord has seen your name in there, whether it be interacting with the community or posting announcements or, just doing what you can to foster the community that is in there. And another thing that we all appreciate. I'm also curious about, Rob is always talking about Cornucopias as a game first, and he really wants to build up the a family friendly, game centric aspect of what Cornucopias is building up to be. So I'm curious about your experience with gaming. Do you have any favorite games? Do you consider yourself a gamer? Tell me a little bit about that.
I am not, nor do I expect to be a gamer. I've never been a gamer. I'm a. To be honest with you, when I think about cornucopias, what I am dreaming of is the ability to just walk out into Esperanza or any of the theme zones and get lost. Just go walk out there and get lost, or hop in my OG bubble jet and go get lost in the clouds. I just love exploring. So that's, the game part is, I don't know anything about that. I don't know how it works. I don't understand what guilds are. I don't understand any of that stuff. But, um, but I'm learning.
That's great. I think that is a testament to the diversity behind the Cornucopias team. I think anybody that has watched Kopi Cafe or paid attention to what's happening with the core team back there, the focus isn't on just people that are game enthusiasts or love games, but it's like people with talent that are coming together to do something revolutionary in the space of games and metaverse and just blockchain technology. How is it that you came about getting connected with Cornucopias?
So Rob and I go way back. Uh, we were both part of the Catalyst Fund One, that first 50 people that were invited to come into Catalyst, and we became fast friends, and we've been through quite a bit in those early days of what is Catalyst, what is government governance, how do you build a community, how do you govern what the community wants to be, and how do you assist them in moving forward in that direction. So Rob and I, we uh, became fast friends, and after I, left the IOG situation, and an appropriate amount of time had passed, Rob was working with Josh on Cornucopias, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come just check out our Discord?" And shortly thereafter, it was, oh, okay, I'm in. What can I do here? So that's kind of how I ended up here.
That's awesome. I love the immediate recognition of value of what they're doing there. Yeah, we're all huge fans of Cornucopias. I think that goes without saying. With that being said, we've discussed a lot in the past about how unique Cornucopias is in that they have guilds. They have sub communities building within them that we're not really seeing in other metaverse projects. I mean, I suppose we're not really seeing the whole like game first sort of philosophy behind other metaverse projects, generally speaking, either. But the guild part of it is really interesting. It's very self motivated by the community. It's very just self-built, self-driven. People are out there doing their own things within Cornucopias, but also outside of and independent of Cornucopias. And I think that's where the Cornucopias Guild Alliance comes into play. Um, Tell us about the history of Cornucopias. Give us the story of how it started, what was the intention behind it, and what problems is it meant to solve or prevent.
The Alliance, you mean?
Yes, of the Alliance.
Yeah. So early on, as the guilds, the mafia, and the knights were, growing their ranks. People can become tribal. People can become over exuberant in their competitiveness. And quickly, the leadership of the mafia and the knights both recognized that it might be good if there was some agreement, some core principles, a code of conduct that could be agreed to and passed on to their membership as independent guilds. And also, there's the concept of the hordes are coming. When we start attracting gamers from outside of our current echo bubble, the guilds that are out there can be giant, and they can come in and crush uh, uh, the current members. It's nothing for them to bring 10,000 hordes in on a game. So the idea of having some alliance where we were looking to um, make certain that we all kind of agreed about certain core principles and how we wanted to act and be toward one another would be a good thing. So that's and Moody could probably speak to this a lot better than I can, but I right away identified with that. I told uh, the guilds that I was not going to stand. I wasn't going to wear anybody's flag. I wanted, because I knew that I was, as a team member, I'd have to kind of step away from that a little bit. And thankfully, I was accepted as kind of a liaison. Someone who could act as that person to talk, amongst all of the guild leaderships and take that information back to the team and try and act as that liaison.
I'm going to jump in there because and thanks, Dick. So I think Josh calling you the head of the Cornucopia Guilds Alliance, I agree. I agree with you that's not the role. That's not the role you want. But the maturity and the commitment to the game, to the community, and to the culture, for you to step away from both the guilds, that elevated you and the respect the guilds have for you as an individual massively. And I think in the Cornucopia's Guilds Alliance you've got the role of chair pretty much. And I think that's so powerful because you're not affiliated with any guild, because you've got that strong liaison with the game. You can almost be an arbitrator and almost like an assurance level above the guilds alliance, because we want that to be totally independent of the guilds but to represent the guilds view. I think you've undersold how much influence you individually have had on the guilds alliance, and I for one, I'm really grateful that you've stepped into that post. If we roll back the clock, the whole conversation started, I think there was a bit of bickering in the KoC Discord channel.
100%.
And Pinball reached out to me, and I missed his DM for about 3 or 4 days, I think, just for whatever reason. And within probably half an hour, Pinball and I, and anyone who's had a conversation with Pinball on voice, they don't last 5 minutes. they get into great detail, but we very quickly sketched out some really core principles in terms of reference that we wanted the Guilds Alliance to be. And it was great that both the guild leaderships were 100% committed to actually creating a layer above the guilds to actually really support the values of the game and to protect the game. And yeah, we knocked that together, and we've I think we currently have 3 members from each established guild in the Guilds Alliance, and that's about the time, Steve, you stepped away from any affiliation with a guild and took on that role, and I think it's perfect. So the reason I wanted to jump in is that I just wanted to, you removing yourself from any affiliation with a guild has been a massive influence to the Guilds Alliance. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I think that's important. So anyway, yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I don't know if I strayed off the path here, Josh, where we were headed. I know that I tend to ramble a bit. So Why don't you wrangle me back onto the path here, and we'll continue on.
No, actually, you know what? That was fantastic, and I was going to see if we could camp out here in this territory for a little bit. And Moody, I wanted to get some your perspective about the history of the Cornucopias Guild Alliance, what the intention was, and you kind of already touched on like how it has evolved some, but like I agree completely about what you guys are saying about having that. What maybe you call it like a unbiased arbiter that can bring together and unite all of the guilds. But what are what's that look like practically speaking? Like why was this something that we felt was so needed in within the community?
As another really important reason the Guilds Alliance was formed, because we are trying both the Mafia and the Knights and other guilds that are popping up now, which is great to see, by the way. We need to have a level, not influence, that's the wrong word. The guilds need to have a level of sensible interaction as the game develops. Because ultimately, at some point in time, the guilds are probably going to have more player members than non-guilds, yeah, and any individual guild trying to communicate or leverage a relationship with the game would be seen as biased, would be seen as counterproductive, or some kind of affiliation or something like that. So we also, another key part of the Guilds Alliance is that the guilds can speak with one voice to the game. And we've actually drafted out a proposal to the game of a number of interactions we feel that the Guilds Alliance and the guilds can actually have with the game. So we can actually, because we need to be not considered, that's the wrong word, but we just want to have some input into things like when they're designing the guild tools and stuff like that, because ultimately it will be a better game with a single view from guilds that are trying to grow. So that was another really important reason as well, Josh.
That's great. I mean, like, I love the practicality of it. I love that it brings value to the table, that it kind of gives us, the Cornucopias community, that there's a ton of gamers out there that have come together and have aligned very much with the whole, gamer first philosophy that is being built on top of Cornucopias. So that's awesome. Let's talk future potential of the Cornucopias Guild Alliance. What are some other practical examples of like what the CGA might be able to bring value to the benefit for players, the benefit for guilds and guild members? What is it? What would you say to somebody as a practical example of why a guild leader or a guild member should push their guild to join the CGA? That one's open, by the way. That open question.
So the advantage of coming into the alliance is that you lay your voice alongside those other voices of the guilds that are in Cornucopias. It also provides you a framework for a code of conduct and a way to encourage your guild members in proper interaction. I mean, look, guilds, they're always going to be looking to poach one another's uh, personnel assets. I mean, it's just a fact of life. But I think that how you go about doing that and what manner you utilize. If we're in an alliance and we're able to, I mean, if we're able to sit down and say, let's be reasonable amongst ourselves, then it's not going to become all out war. Leave the war to the actual in-game experience, I think is the way I would say it. And at the leadership level of the guilds, you want to have a way to formulate how we're going to communicate. member to member.
A really good example of that, Steve. And if we roll back the clock a couple of months ago, I think I think it was just after the cornucopias land mint. There was a lot of discussion, and it wasn't even negotiation at that time, and it wasn't even looking inwardly at the guilds. It was looking at how, because both guilds have got quite a significant asset base. We started talking earlier about how we could get some kind of aligned strategy on which districts and which parts of the districts the guilds focus their land assets. Because the last thing we want is both guilds to have a patchwork quilt of assets around the game. Well, actually, we might do. We haven't got enough information on the game yet. But that is a really good example of any guilds that are out there that have got an asset base or have aspiration of having an asset base. Joining the Guilds Alliance, you can be part of that strategical kind of like placement of assets, and that can generate lots of benefits for the individual guilds, but also generate, and that could, with the alliance into a game, liaison into a game, if they're aware that we're talking like this, it's not underhand. It's totally sensible. We're protecting the game. We're protecting the guilds. But it's things like that. So that those strategical decisions of not bickering and not going into competition about locations or anything like that, that will benefit everyone. Another thing, when you said in the future, Josh, we've all said, if the word guild is a really boring word, the guild should be just permanently plural: guilds. The more guilds we've got, the better. The better for the community, the better for the game. And what we want to do is actually, at a point in the future, we want to actually mentor and coach new guilds so they can get up to speed quicker. So, we're building that community. There's nothing better than seeing people walk around in different guilds, having that banter within the game, keep it in the game. But we're trying to almost get a blueprint of how to build a successful guild in line with the conduct, behaviour, and ethics that the Guilds Alliance have already got written down in their charter. So there's some things there for us to definitely sell as a CGA, as a Cornucopias Guilds Alliance.
I think that one of the really good things is, I mean, there's a massive amount of talent and guild knowledge within the existing guilds right now, and to bring that talent together and allow it to expand out, if you will, or find other outlets for that knowledge. It's good for all of the guilds. It's good for the game. It's just good for the community at large, that the guilds are utilizing these talents of Moody and Pinball and all these other folks who have so much guild experience. Let's spread that far and wide.
Yeah, something that you guys are both really hitting on, I think, is the very first thought that I had when I heard about the Cornucopias Guild Alliance, which is that there's a huge benefit to having a a group come together that are independent groups that exist and have their own motivations for building things within Cornucopias, or wherever it is within the metaverse. Uh, they have their own motivations for doing things, whatever it is that they decide to do. But having that affiliation with something that has a greater interest in mind, independent of those own individual guild motivations, I think makes a huge difference. Just as an example, and this was the first thought that came to mind when I heard about the land assets that are distributed right now with the between the Corn Mafia and the Knights Guilds, the two highest owning wallets of land assets right now, only comes up to somewhere in the ballpark like 400 to 600 plots of land out of the 24,000 that exist. There's no reason why the Mafia and the Knights couldn't come together, place all of their land plots within the same district, and just aim to dominate the in-game economy. There's no reason that they couldn't do that if their best interest was the very first thing on their mind. Just like, let's work together to go and get those cornucopias district awards and dominate the in-game economy and just build up our area before anybody else has a chance to get to it. But that wouldn't be healthy for the game. It wouldn't be very appealing if there was no real competition that other people that haven't discovered cornucopias yet, they wouldn't be very motivated to come into a place that's already been dominated, that they have to fight up against an existing monopoly for. When there's a CGA that exists there where the best interest is for cornucopias and the thriving future that exists there, I think that sets up for a fantastic foundation for where cornucopias is going, for a much healthier in-game community, in-game economy. I think those are the values that the CGA brings to the table, and that's one of the things that I'm hugely excited about it for.
Josh, that's so important what you've just said, and I totally agree with everything you've said. The CGA, that independence and that almost like assurance is going to be really powerful. But don't underestimate. So you've referenced the 2 guild wallets, which have a significant asset base in each guild wallet. But also, let's just take the Knights for example. So we've got 200 guild owned land assets. Our members have probably got over quadruple that number. So it's not just about the guild owned assets, it's about the guild, the assets the guild can influence through its members. And that's when you look at the member base, I mean, both the Mafia and the Knights, the member base has grown significantly, and it will grow faster and faster. I mean, I think we'll lose track about how quickly the member base will grow when the game gets close. But it's also having that strategical, ethical influence on those members when it comes to assets as well. So it's not just the guild owned assets; it's the guild influenced assets as well, which we've got to consider.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. There's a lot of assets, and I think I discovered this actually. One of the things that I'm obsessed with when it comes to the world of NFTs or crypto, or just like the on-chain analysis that we have accessible to us, the data that we can just go and look at on a whim. And yeah, I've discovered that there are quite a few substantial individual wallets that exist within the guilds as well. So that's a good point. But Cornucopia's land is actually fantastically well distributed in my opinion. And like as I've looked at the amount of holders that exist for Cornucopia's assets, it's really cool to see that that there's so much excitement about Cornucopias that people are out to get the NFTs, and naturally they get more decentralized in its distribution. So I think that's really cool. I have no clue what the numbers could look like out there as far as the smaller wallets added up all together. There's a lot of potential. I'm just at this point I'm rambling. It's just I'm excited about Cornucopia.
It's a good rambling.
Well, on that, there's a couple of more like it was sort of practical examples that I hope to pull out of this. Moody, you've got a long history of guild experience in multiple games, if I'm not mistaken. What kind of in-game conflicts, in your experience, might you have seen that could have benefited from a CGA-like entity?
It's a very different world. So my experience in in guild management and guild leadership is in traditional MMOs, and there's not so much at stake in like the traditional games. When you are just running around a game trying to get the best gear, beat the biggest boss in the quickest time, the competition and the conflict it can get quite toxic, and I think that guild leadership and guild establishment in a blockchain gaming sense, when actually people are investing time for various reasons, like some will be like Steve, who just run around looking at all of the fantastic scenery, but some people will be playing this game because they will see it as a form of income, and that's fantastic that people can do that. So I think the conflicts will be very different in that space, and we've already started talking about that as a CGA, which is why we've got the charter. We've already got a well-established charter which covers things like ethics, it covers things like inclusivity, fairness, all of those really good words that we actually are, we're authentic about delivering. So to be honest, Josh, the conflicts will be different in what I've experienced in the past, but that's why we formed the CGA. So we can look ahead and try and see where conflicts are going to forge. That's why having strategical discussions on land placement, for example, on a number of things, like there's going to be transport routes and stuff like that, having some kind of principles around that with the guilds, we are trying to avoid these conflicts rather than fix them. And everyone knows prevention is better than cure. And the fact that the CGA is established so early in the game, and it's very like-minded people who are supporting the vision of the game. Part of our job is to have the insight and the foresight to identify these conflicts and try and fix them before they come. But I can't relate to that in my experience from guilds because I've not been in a blockchain gaming guild. So it's quite a different concept.
I guess it's kind of a new landscape that we're sort of building in, like blockchain gaming guilds. Whichever way you look at it, it's a brand new thing. Maybe they exist a little bit in other areas, but it's definitely not the same concept that traditional MMO guilds have been throughout the past few decades. So that,
So
yeah, it's really
can
interesting.
can I ask about that? Because I'm forgive me, maybe I'm a little too naive here, but when you say a blockchain based MMO as opposed to say World of Warcraft or any of the other MMOs, the only difference is that there's actual real world value potential for the players. Am I right?
I think
Yeah,
so. I
pretty
think that
much.
makes
Yeah.
a world of difference. Moody, that's definitely more your territory. Why don't you hit
No,
that?
no, I agree. That's a fundamental difference. And in any walk of life, when there's money involved, people's behaviours are very different, aren't they? And that's something I personally can't say I've experienced in a guild or in a game conflict because it is just a game. But so that will be the fundamental difference, and it's a massive one, isn't it?
So, yes, I would say that once money enters the picture, uh, things are different. But until the money was here, then all you had was the rep or the ability to say, "Oh, I'm part of this guild, and we can throw 60 bodies at any challenge in a heartbeat." In this particular world or that particular world, and we have amassed. I think that for most of my understanding of what gaming guilds have done in the past, it's just as important as if it was real life. Until there's a real life earnings capability that shows up, and then you see a differentiation.
You know what I think is interesting? Because the whole concept of digital ownership integrated within an
Mhm.
MMO type thing is that it makes a world of difference, and it adds a lot of real world impact as a result. Like in a different way of thinking about it, you could suggest that in the real world economy, guilds exist. Some of the biggest ones, Amazon.com or Walmart or Target. The difference there is that when Amazon.com leans on some smaller business that is trying to build something up there, um, their actual real world is impacted as a result of that. That they're trying to build something, that they're building an economy on, and I think that's why I'm so in love with the concept of the CGA, because that foundation of interacting, the community bringing together, we exist as a team, we're trying to make the healthiest economy that we can. We produce a foundation for what is a much healthier space for anybody to just go in and engage in. And uh, just in games, like the concept of digital ownership, you never been able to like own land in World of Warcraft, as far as I'm aware, anyways. Um, so I think that's a huge impact that is brought to the table, and I think that's already demonstrated now in what is being built. Moody, just last night, I saw that you went and did a gaming live stream with Scruffy. I think that was super cool. Yeah, I feel like that is a show to the public, to the cornucopias community, that we're not enemies here. We are in competition with one another openly, and we think that that's good and healthy. But we're aiming to protect that competition, to keep it competitive. We exist as friends, but we're still, trying to build something within this that is fair, that is competitive, and that ultimately will be fun.
Geez, and I didn't. I think I got it. It's Fall Guys. It's a great game, actually. Everyone, we're gonna arrange a Mafia v Knights session at some point in the future. But it's a really good game. Check it out, everyone. And I got eliminated first in every bloody scenario. I was knocked out first. And I'm sure the Mafia, because there's a lot of Mafia watching the stream, I'm sure they were all laughing and laughing, saying, "Oh my God, look at the Knights! They can't even play Fall Guy." Blah blah. So I don't know what PR I gave the Knights Guild, but no, the whole point of that, and exactly what you've just said, it's about showing the community that the guilds have. I always say the Mafia and the Knights, because there's been a lot of questions about this, who's the best guild, blah blah blah. It doesn't really matter. It's Pepsi and Coca-Cola. They both taste kind of the same. They've got a different approach, but they both want to do the same thing, and that's a perception we want to get out there. And as new guilds get established, we'll do exactly the same with the new guilds, because no guild will be bigger in the game.
It's Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and Waterloo over here, guys.
It's Panda Cola. My dad, I don't like Coke. I'm a lemonade drinker. But the reason is because my dad used to buy Panda Cola as a child, and it was horrible. And when I used to go around my friend's house and they had Coca-Cola, my dad, God, taught me some lessons. Panda Cola destroyed my love of Coke.
There's one thing that I wanna hone in there for a second, and it looks like we got a couple of people that are requesting for questions. So before we jump into that, I wanna sort of focus more in like what I had asked a question among many questions that got drowned out. What would you say to a new guild that to motivate them to join the CGA? Like what value could you pitch to them, and what greater benefit does it add to Cornucopias as a whole for new guilds to join the CGA? Do we have any input on that question?
I think that it provides them a code of conduct, a way to be. There are also, guidelines with respect if they need assistance. And I think that both of the Mafia and the Knights would be, just tickled pink to talk about how they've gone about uh, amassing their different, whether it be the Knight's armor or the Mafia's DAOs, or however it is that they go about uh, uh, financing the holdings that the different guilds have. I think that there's a lot of benefit in coming into the alliance and becoming part of that. It just gives you it gives a new guild a lot more credibility, if you ask me. Hey, we're part of the guild's alliance. We're working with them toward increasing the guild experience within Cornucopias.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's also that voice element, Josh. As we've got to review the terms of reference, which we're doing the first week back in the new year, actually. But it's that voice. So the Guilds Alliance captures the voice of all the guilds, and if you're not at a table, you won't have a voice. You won't be able to voice an opinion. And we are, like I say, we've got that proposal in with the team on how we can get some kind of interaction. And if you've got a new guild and you want to, be part of growing that guild community, the CJ gives you that voice and gives you that influence. And also a lot of lessons. I mean, both a Mafia and a Knights Guild. Bloody hell! I could list out a million lessons I've learned or we've learned in the Knights Guild trying to establish a Knights Guild, as can the Mafia. Nothing's been perfect, and if a new guild joins and they're quite immature in their growth, we could say, whoa, think about this. We did that and it really screwed up. So they would get to a level of maturity quicker because they've got a lot of experience around the table as well, and experience from people who want them to succeed rather than want them to fail. So that's another massive benefit in joining the CGA.
I love it. Those are fantastic points that I hope any new guild gets a chance to run by, because I think it's a great opportunity.
Kind of to follow on along with that, we did set up some acceptance requirements. In other words, what does it take to actually join the alliance? And right now that's they need to have an established leadership team. There should be 25 or more members. But I mean, all of these things are, they're made up out of whole cloth. When the alliance came together, hey, we need to have some concepts of how we're going to move forward as an alliance. And I think that as more people come in, there's going to be more ideas. There's going to be more things to discuss about how do we attract new guilds, and do we need to adjust these parameters here or there. So I think that another good reason to join the alliance is to be part of those decision making activities, the actual governance of this, what I expect will be a rather large group, a large percentage of the total players within Cornucopias is going to be within the guilds. So that's kind of my follow-on thought to that.
I'm going to go ahead and open us up here. First person that requested up was Shafalahayan. I think I'm pronouncing that right. You're on the mic. What's up, man?
Yeah, we don't want Stein coming up because he's going to tell everyone how bad I was at Fall Guys last night.
We might be forced to if Shafa is away from the mic.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
There you are.
I apologize.
How you doing?
So I just wanted to bring up a couple of points. You guys were talking about previous games, how blockchain is a little bit different. I think really the only way that blockchain games are going to be different from traditional MMOs is the structure in which people make money. I was involved in a lot of MMOs in the last couple of decades, and large guilds, games like EVE Online, I don't know if you guys are familiar, or Shadowbane, or really intense player versus player scenarios, where millions of dollars were being made in various ways, and it was incredibly competitive, and people game theoried it to the point where it became a very contentious game to play if you wanted to own anything. And so with blockchain gaming and cornucopias especially, I think how that's structured is going to be really important and will really determine a lot of the type of players that are brought into the game. I know I want to use this for a lot of stuff with schools and my kids, but the game can change a lot depending on the incentives that are brought forward. And I don't know, I think that thinking that people are going to play nice, people are not going to play nice in this. And there are going to be some guilds coming in. And with the CGA, I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of safeguard some of the values that we want this game to stand for. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm interested in your perspective. It sounds like you've got some history with MMOs and how games and guilds. When you say that that money was made in a variety of different ways, are you speaking from a like a guild perspective, like an independent perspective of people playing the game, or are you talking like from the game creator's perspective?
No, from people playing the game. Guilds getting involved, farming whatever resources were available, and there were real world economies for these assets. So like in EVE Online, the currency was called ISK, and there were major farming operations across the world. You know, it was one giant server, everybody played on the Dragon server, and people paid real world money for ISK, and there was an exchange rate. And so people would go and try to figure out, okay, how much ISK can I get doing this? How much ISK can I get doing this? And so you had a situation where you could actually control large sectors of space. They were all player controlled. You could fight and take it from each other. Took a little bit of time, but if people would sit down and say, okay, how much money would it take for us to take control of these star systems? All right, and how much would we get? What's our rate of return on an investment? What are all these things to make more money? And people really, they gamified it, and they got really serious. People, it was really intense, and I think that the same thing will happen in games like this. I mean, you can imagine with the district competitions, right? Real world money is at stake, like you guys were talking about. And people are going to say, all right, I want to win the district rewards in this sector, or this sector, or this sector. And it's going to become a very complicated situation where people are going to be at odds with each other. And I think with the CGA, we can say, okay, let's set up a code of conduct so we're not messing with each other in these types of ways. So we're not competing with each other, say, you guys are trying to get in this sector. Well, what if I just decided to buy a bunch of common lands and I didn't put anything in there to boost the sector or boost that district? Maybe I just take and I flood it with a bunch of lands so that that district can't support as many people, can't support as many players. I just sell stuff at a loss leader, predatory pricing. There are a lot of ways that economically people can kind of attack each other. And so I think that we should talk to each other as a group and say, let's not do this to each other. And let's be aware that there are going to be groups that are going to come in and use these predatory practices on us potentially. And so we want to protect our guild members and maybe encourage people to not do this kind of thing. I mean, that's one real advantage of this blockchain gaming that I really see is that, well, we can hold each other accountable. We know exactly who holds these. You know, we can say, these are our wallets, these are the lands that we hold, and we're not going to do these types of predatory practices with each other. Does that make sense?
Do you know what you've explained it really, really well, and it makes total sense. And I think someone asked a question the other day. I forget what Twitter space it was. Oh, Josh. No, it wasn't that one. Someone asked a question to Rob directly. Is there a way you can block certain players from coming into land areas? And the answer wasn't clear, and you wouldn't expect it to be clear at this stage. But like you say, if we do identify that toxic predatory behavior, I like that term, by the way. You know, in the Guilds Alliance, many are much more powerful than few, especially when it comes to assets, when it comes to player base. So I think, we've got a level of protection there, not just from the huge guilds coming in, but also these. I mean, World of Warcraft, for example, they had people and bots. They were farming and farming and farming and selling gold, like you said, for real currency. But having that alliance who have all signed up to a code of conduct, all of the core principles and values of the game, we can potentially limit that and make it a better, safer place for people to come and play. So no, you've explained it really well, especially the Eve example. I remember some of the examples in real world there. It was frightening.
It was terrifying. These people, they made money, and they were willing to ruin other people's financial prospects in order to do it. And I think that we're going to attract more of that crowd in a game like this. And so if we can build a group of people that are like-minded, that want to run the game and play the game in a specific way that really kind of helps people, and there are a lot of ways that this learn to earn can improve the world. And if we come up with a whiz-bang idea on how to make that happen, I think that we need to protect it, and getting together like this is a fantastic idea. Anyway, sorry, I've probably taken everybody's time.
No, really, really, really good post. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, thanks for the moment. Have a good Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm gonna save that guy's Twitter because I want to see if I can scout him for the Knights later. All right, I'll bring Stein up.
Is Stein coming up? Oh, here we go. His opening statement is going to be on how crap I was at Fall Guys.
Stein, you're on the mic.
Hey, thanks for having me on today. Moody, you did excellent last night. There's nothing to say about it. I wasn't playing, so better you than me. That's all I have to say about that game. It looked too tough for me. I just want to pull back a little bit and talk more about individuals in a guild instead of the vast what he was talking about with the guild alliance and game economy and game theory. When I came into Cornucopias, I was recruited into the guild, and because I had a talent, I used to have a marketing company and a web design company and stuff like that. So I found a foothold in something I really like to do, and I think guilds are not just an economic structure or a bellicostic thing where people want to go, oh, my guild's better than yours, your guild's better than mine. I think of guilds as more of a family. That's what we always promote inside the Mafia, that it's a family where you can come in and you can talk to people, like-minded people. And that's what I want to put out there, is that guilds are not just, you against me or anything like that. Guilds are a fun and friendly place to be. And I think a lot of people don't see it that way, because I used to be in a gaming guild when we played Call of Duty, and that was very toxic. And I think these gaming guilds, being a slow to adopt game because it is not out yet, we have an opportunity to get to know our members, move up in the ranks in the guild. And basically a guild is like a game within a game almost. It's like, what are your talents? Can you do something? Yes. Okay. Well, let's move you up in the ranks and do this. And there's so much more involvement inside a guild that people don't realize. And like myself, I don't believe I will be playing the game. My focus is to play my guild, or to help run the guild, because I had been moved up to godparent in my guild, which I am greatly thankful for. And it took a lot of time and a lot of effort, but we have to understand that these guilds are just a great place to be in, and not just a toxic place where people want to fight against other guilds. And that's what I have to say about that.
I want to just jump in here and thank you for that. It's awfully easy to sit around and talk about, the guild leadership, the this, the that. But the truth of the matter is, right now, outside of, being in the mints and scouring the Kopi wiki and trying to, know what's coming at us, uh, being in a guild and being involved in that guild is a way to, bide our time a little bit and set our position for when the game does come. So I think that you've raised a really interesting point, that it does kind of give a different sort of belonging than you can have right now within, Cornucopias as a general place to be. So yeah, game within a game. I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, go
I mean,
ahead.
I was just going to say, and I've said this numerous times, that the 40,000 people in the Kopi server, the up to 2,000 people in the Discord and Mafia server, the vast majority of those members are crypto enthusiasts, blockchain enthusiasts, and like investors in a lot of senses. Very soon, when this game does get close to launch, and the Cornucopias community currently today will be dwarfed by players, and a lot of these players they don't care really much about crypto or blockchain or Cardano. They just want to come and game, and like you said, Stein, in a friendly environment, in a helpful environment where they can actually have fun, and guilds will give that, like project on a project, that community in a community opportunity to do that. So yeah, I think when we do talk about guilds, we do tend to focus a lot on the economics and the blockchain and all of that good stuff, which is actually transforming the gaming industry. And I think we kind of take for advantage on the whole community aspect, because we do have some great community builders in Cornucopias and in both guilds. But no, some really good points there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for saying that. I just, before I get off, I'd like to, just mention that when I had retired 6 years ago, and my living situation, I take care of somebody, so I'm home all the time. So this community gives me an outlet to talk with people and to talk with very brilliant people, and brilliant people from all over the world, like you guys here. And that's the most important thing to me, is more so than, I hate to say it, more so than Cornucopias at this time, because I can't really do anything with Cornucopias. So the guild to me is the most important thing. And I think a lot of people that get into guilds will end up finding that playing this game will be a much, much better place than playing it alone. Because like any game, it's funner with friends. You have to admit that. And to play a game by yourself, yeah, it's okay, but if you get on a good team and you make some good friends, then you can talk to people outside the game, which is the most important thing, I think, of all: friendship and camaraderie.
Stein, that was really, really powerful. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, mate. That was really powerful.
I think that addition was a fantastic. I think it's been what's really missing from this conversation that we've had here today, because the community aspect behind Cornucopias, I keep talking about how it's unique, but yeah, absolutely, like the relationships that have been built within the guilds, between the collaboration in these sub communities within Cornucopias, like that's I think the heart of the uniqueness there, is that we have been able to make connections with people, real connections and relationships between people that we otherwise wouldn't have ever been able to make. And for that, I am eternally grateful for the Cornucopias community, for the Knights Guild. I look forward to getting more connected with the Corn Mafia, and I'm hoping that this discussion, among others, leads to a lot more collaboration and live streams of crappy gamers coming together to epically fail at whatever live stream event that you guys want to be looking out for. So I think that's
Relax, Moody. Relax, Moody. He's not leaving.
I think that is a great place to round out the discussion. We're sitting at a little over an hour here, which is usually about what we run. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Stephen, thank you so much for coming and guesting on this episode of the Knights Tavern. We really appreciate you.
Man, I appreciate the invite, and hope that I didn't ramble too much. I'm going to have to listen back to this thing and find out if I really stepped in it anywhere. You all understand, I'm just a fella who's really passionate about this game, and whatever I can do to assist along those lines, I'm all about that.
We all are incredibly passionate about this game, and I think that the conversation that we had here was tremendously fruitful, and we're all grateful for it.
Yeah, and we've got to remember, so a lot of the people who are building the game in the Cornucopias team and the Discord stuff, that is their job. Yeah, the people who are building these guilds are doing it evening and weekends, and for a passion of either gaming or like Stein gave a really good example for a release they can't get elsewhere. So this is community voluntary driven, so it's a really powerful thing, and it's being driven by the communities, and as the guilds grow, the Cornucopias Guilds Alliance will grow, and we've got a great opportunity here. So thank you for hosting today, Josh and Steve. Thank you so much for coming along, and thank you to the two great Pete guests who stood up and made really powerful statements. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much, everybody. Like we talked about at the beginning of today's space, we've got some cool announcements coming up in the next week with the Knights Guild, and keep an eye out for those things. And if you're a new guild out there, whether you're listening on Twitter or the recording that'll be put over on YouTube, take a look at the Cornucopias Guild Alliance, because they're really fostering a fantastic foundation to build upon Cornucopias that is already looking out to be on its own just an incredible space to connect with people. So I think that'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and have a good one. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
everyone. Have a great day. Bye.